It's the Gutter Show, the midweek edition. I've got Josh Sexton, Dan Austin, and Mo Stewart joining me. Well, breaking. I like to go. I've got all kinds of content for you, but I've got a breaking story, and it's not directly Liverpool linked, but I think it's going to cause effects throughout the European transfer market. Reports. I'll start with you, Josh. That Kylian Mbappe has been bid for by Real Madrid for 272 million euros. Why they picked that figure, I don't know. Did they say, will you take 271 million? They said, no, only 272. But they've come up with that figure. Real Madrid have rushed to deny it, but Sky Sports are really quite adamant about this. Real Madrid have a habit of denying these kind of stories. I'm interested in this from the point of view that it would be the biggest transfer in world football, and as we saw with Neymar last summer, it had knock-on effects. I think without that Neymar transfer, it's possible that Phil Coutinho might even still be a Liverpool player today. What do you see as the ramifications for the European transfer market if this does go through?
Well, the first thing is I'm not actually sure who Mbappe belongs to. Is he on loan at PSG? So is he technically PSG's player?
Yes. Sorry to clarify. Right. Well, the way that I thought that too, but the reports are suggesting that he's PSG's to sell, but they haven't even paid for him. This is what we call a back-to-back deal in the business world.
And they've got FFP ramifications still to pay.
Ramifications right up their arse.
Yeah.
Yes.
So. Interesting in that respect, I suppose. Maybe that will force them to sell, and perhaps they'd have to pay Monaco a sort of portion of that money then. But no, it is interesting, especially in a sort of sense of Liverpool as well, because I feel like the sort of Roma view of them being shortchanged for Salah has a lot to do with the Neymar deal and possibly the Coutinho deal as well. And like you say, the Coutinho deal is obviously linked to the Neymar deal in some respects in terms of the amount of money that was behind that. But when we paid 35 million for Salah at the time, I sort of remember people thinking, that seems like a fair price. Hopefully he'll play well for that sort of money, and then all of a sudden Neymar goes for 180, 190, is it? And then you
did
go,
it breach
whoa.
200 million? Yeah.
Possibly was 200 million in terms of add-ons and things. But yeah, and then you're looking at Mo Salah and going, well, hold on. Especially at the end of the season when he scored 46 goals in the end, 44 goals, and then he's cost you 35 million. So I think there'll probably be a lot of clubs who, like Roma, are sort of licking their wounds after thinking, well, we've been shortchanged for him when there's players going for this much money, but also in terms of, the players that we're looking to sign. So if Fekir is still sort of on the agenda, then Leon might start looking at 53 million, even despite the injuries, and going, well, actually, if he is worth 180, then this is worth that. And Roma might be saying, well, maybe Alisson's not even worth 80, he's now worth 120. So yeah, I imagine there will be knock-on effects.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I wasn't even focusing that much on the inflationary effects. I think you're absolutely right. That was a knock-on effect of last year's. I was specifically looking at you, Dan, on Madrid's budget. They're a wealthy club, but there are limits here. This is going to knock their budget out in one fell swoop. They have assets to sell. I think they're going to start to really want to seriously move those assets, and the names we'll be talking about are some seriously good footballers, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think they're in a position though where they can probably afford just to spend that amount of money on one player, because
without sales,
it's not necessarily in that sense, but I mean they don't need to buy many footballers because they've got a really great football team and they've won three European Cups in a row, so they might be in a position where they could buy 3 for 100 million euros, or they could just buy one that they think is going to be the best in the world for 10 years. And it probably makes sense because Ronaldo's got maybe another season or two at the very top level playing for Real Madrid, I would think, and then they're going to need somebody else because Benzema's going to be 32 or 33 as well. Isco, Asensio aren't really proper forwards, they're more attacking midfielders, so they're going to need someone at the top of the pitch that's one of the best in world football. So I suppose they're just trying to get him now while they think they could maybe sort of strike while the iron's hot, I guess, because
he's not going to get cheaper, is he?
That's what I mean. If he's 270 million now in a year's time, how much is he going to be? And then it's going to get to a point where Cavani's going to be 32 or 33 and he's going to be the main man at Paris Saint-Germain if you leave him there long enough. So he'll be probably the highest earner in world football. He'll be central to their ambitions of Europe, winning the European Cup and all stuff like that. So maybe they're looking at it as though maybe before this tournament even, they wouldn't have been that strongly interested in him in terms of actually purchasing him. Obviously they'll have been interested in him because he's a brilliant footballer, but maybe they've seen his performances and thought, no, we need to get him now, because if not, he's either going to get cemented into that team that he's already at, or someone else might pick him up from under us.
The other thing that I think is really interesting about the timing is that I think this is linked to Cristiano Ronaldo, because the rumours of him and this Juventus bid have got stronger and stronger over the last week or so, And now we're in a situation where Real Madrid, I think we all know that they've had an interest in Mbappe for a long time. And they were probably willing to wait, as Dan said, and let him develop in PSG before they came in for him. But now maybe that they're finally getting rid of Ronaldo. Maybe they've got to the point where, you know what, it's better for him, it's better for us. Let's go out and do this Mbappe deal now before anyone else gets him, before the price starts flying up. Because we've seen how he's performed in this World Cup, and any price that's quoted for him today could still go up by 40, 50 million euro by the time the tournament finishes. And also, the other element to this that I find really interesting is how quickly Real Madrid have come out and denied. They said, no, this is not true, it's not true. Almost like they're trying to keep certain people on side. Certain people, like, for example, a young player who doesn't want this distraction when he's had the brilliant World Cup. The club, who don't want to be tarnished by the French fans if any of this distraction causes problems with the France team. So they were so swift to say, no, this is not happening. This is definitely not happening. It's almost like they want to protect certain relationships.
They did this with Neymar yesterday.
They did it with Neymar yesterday.
It's coming. Sorry, Derek, go on.
Of the two of them, though, I think that Paris Saint-Germain would be more likely to find a way of accepting a deal to sell Neymar than Mbappe.
Agreed.
I think Mbappe is incredibly important to Paris Saint-Germain as a project. In that he's French, he's probably going to be the best striker in the world. There's the narrative that goes with them that sort of legitimises a lot of what they do, because I think sometimes they feel, or what various managers that they've had have said, and sometimes the owners, they feel some sort of like affront that people don't take them seriously, that people just view them as a business and not a proper football club. And I think if they just continue to go out and spend money on people like Neymar, have them for a few years and then sell them on, the people won't take them particularly seriously. Whereas if they buy a young player who has some sort of identifiable link with them in his backstory and they keep him for a very long time, it lends a lot of credence to what they're doing. And he'll be an incredible marketing asset for them for potentially 15 years if he stays there forever, in a way that even Neymar probably can't reach.
Yeah, I mean, the choice might not be in their hands because of the FFP nuances. I don't know. I mean, I've been trying to steer you all towards some Liverpool-based content here because it's technically a Liverpool transfer show. But the knock-on effects of this potential transfer for me, Josh, if I'm just picking things out there, is there's this crazy story that's done the rounds the last week about Liverpool being interested in Asensio. Well, my first instincts were they're not selling Asensio, but if you're buying a player for 272 million and you can offset half that cost by selling a player you weren't giving a game to every week, there's a possibility. Would Liverpool be interested? Of course they would. Could they afford it? These questions would be begged, I think, once this transfer comes to pass. I also think Real Madrid have been cited as Alisson Becker's favoured choice all summer. He's also our favoured choice as a goalkeeper. I wonder if Madrid pay 80 million for a goal, 70 or 80 million for a goalie, and 272 million for a forward, as Dan said. One player will do them, one expensive player. Do they look for a cheaper option? Do they stick with Keylor Navas? So these are the kind of knock-on effects I see from a Liverpool-centric point of view.
Yeah, I think I can understand the Alisson one in terms of, like you say, I couldn't see them spending so much on just getting a striker and a goalkeeper. In terms of the Asensio thing, I think it's always been quite sort of fanciful, and there's always been sort of almost ulterior motives behind the links. In terms of, I'm not sure Liverpool have actually ever really seen him as a player as available. Like as Dan said before, with Mbappe and Real Madrid, Liverpool probably interested because he's an amazing talent with bags of potential. But I'd imagine if someone like Asensio is already at Real Madrid and they're signing someone like Mbappe, they're probably thinking of them two as the two people who they'll hook their team around in the long term, two people who they can build their team around. Whereas they've got a couple of stars there who are moving towards the twilight of their careers, can probably get sort of 60 to 100 million possibly for some of them anyway.
Gareth Bale, for example.
Well, exactly, and you can secure that sort of money without having to, ruin the future in terms of selling a player like Asensio, having a player like Mbappe, but then everyone else retiring around Mbappe while you're sort of scrabbling to try and get other people in.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. Okay, moving very directly back to the land of Liverpool transfers. Regular listeners will know we have a feature called Fekir Watch on this show. Nabil Fekir and Liverpool will not part ways, not totally. To recap for those at the back, the transfer fell apart because of a supposed I suppose, glitch in the medical. But there's been a series of quotes yesterday actually from the Lyon manager Bruno Genesio, should we say, Dan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're a French-speaking guy. On Nabil Fekir. I'd love to have seen the French on this one, actually. I don't know if you've seen it anywhere, because I think there's so much in the nuance of what he said. I can't find it anywhere. This is what he said about Fekir and his possible moving away from Lyon. He said, "I am working under the assumption that he will stay with us. He wants to take the next step. The president has offered him the chance to leave. We will see after the World Cup. He has expressed his desire to play at another level. We will need to set a date. If there is a possibility, like with Liverpool, Nabil will certainly seize the opportunity once both parties agree." Like with Liverpool. This is what I'm forensically analysing this man's words here. Like with Liverpool, does he mean if a club come in for him as Liverpool had, or does he mean if Liverpool? It depends on the French. I was thinking of how comme Liverpool, Liverpool.
I think it was of the same issue in French. I think
you might. I
think it's almost deliberately.
It'd be avec comme Liverpool, something like that. Yes. The interesting sort of last line was once both parties agree. That made me think he's still talking about Liverpool, because you're talking about another club. You go, well, that would be implied, yeah. Mm-hmm. But this implies, I think, there is disagreement at this stage. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is a transfer that is still going to see the light of day?
I think just the extent of the interest that he has in him means that they're never going to completely shut off to the idea. I think that Lyon have most likely seen that. Well, it's not the last year of his contract. He's got 2 years left. Yes. Is that right? Okay, so they've probably got to sell him this summer if they want to maximise the money that they're going to get for him, and then they could go and spend that on replacements. And they've already got one. Who's come through the academy? I can't remember his name.
His name's Aouar. Aouar. A-O-U-A-R.
That lad.
Yeah. He's just signed a 5-year deal.
And he played really well on the occasions that he played last year. So that's someone else that he could potentially look to fill the spot with in the start 11. I think it makes sense for them to sell him now, but they won't want to. It's about the price. I think they'll want to sell him this summer because they can get the highest price for him. But they won't want to sell him if they feel like they're being sort of undermined by Liverpool, saying, "Oh well, we want to pay a little bit less now because we've had to look at the medical and we've had a third opinion," or whatever it is, however many opinions they've got, and they all say that this might come back and bite us, so we want to pay you less money. Then would they not just think, well, we'll just keep him for another year because we could probably get that for him when he's in the last year of his contract from someone who's maybe a bit more desperate. There'll be more interest in him in a year's time because people will be more aware of the contract situation and that sort of thing.
I think you're sort of hinting that they hold more of the cards than they do there, though. I think before the World Cup and sort of when Liverpool's initial interest came in, Lyon did hold all the cards before anything with the medical had even happened, possibly before Liverpool had even formalised their interest. And then all of a sudden now it sort of feels a bit more like Liverpool, like the ball's in Liverpool's court. If the sort of reports that are coming out from Mo's side journalists are to be believed, it's Liverpool who've dropped the deal as he's sort of pretty much failed his medical, or did fail his medical in an official sense. But Lyon sort of now look like they're trying to revive the deal. Everything that's coming out of France is saying that he's being linked with Real Madrid, and that was their president which said that, wasn't it? It's being sort of linked with all sorts.
Matt, you said I was speaking to Jose Mourinho last week.
And there's people saying the deal's dead. There's people saying it's still alive. It all just sort of feels a bit like Lyon are desperately trying to get this back on track, whereas Liverpool are sort of playing it cool and thinking, well, if he bails out of the World Cup having barely played any minutes as he has and is not really impressed because he's not been given the opportunity to, then maybe the premium of what we were going to pay before in the event that did happen will go. Maybe Lyon will be a bit more desperate to sell towards the end of the window because they now know about the issues with his knee and what other sort of situations come from that, and they'll actually start to sort of reduce the asking prices. I think there's all those sort of things which could happen, but I think Liverpool have managed to sort of turn the tables on them, and I think that you're seeing that now with everything that's coming out.
I didn't mean to imply that Lyon have got sort of that the ball's in their court or they've got more cards or whatever. I just mean that they've essentially got two choices at this point, and it's to sell him this summer or sell him next summer. And if they're going to sell him this summer, they're going to want more money than what they could get next year.
Yeah.
So I think basically they've probably all had a chat, decided that they'd rather sell him this summer because they can get more money, but they've set a monetary limit. They've said if Liverpool or if whoever doesn't reach that, then we'll just keep him. We'll just keep him for a year and we'll sell him for less next year because he's worth more to us in that year's time than an extra maybe 10 million euros or whatever, compared to if his knee was completely right, it'd probably be an extra 30 million euros. So I think their ideal scenario is that they sell him this summer, and Liverpool seem to be the only genuine suitors. I know that there's been talk of United, but that feels like just people stirring stuff up. A few weeks ago, when it wasn't quite confirmed that he was on his way to being a Liverpool player, there was talk of Bayern Munich, but I think that's all sort of died down now. I think their ideal scenario is that they sell him to Liverpool this summer, but I don't think they're going to be desperate. I don't think it's going to get to the start of August and they're going to be ringing Liverpool up and going, "Are you sure you don't want him? Do you want to have another look at that knee again?" Sort of thing. They can afford to keep hold of him. So there's still some sort of power balance there, and that's why it hasn't been done yet. It feels like they're both sort of sizing each other up and waiting for the other to blink, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and kind of folded into that whole idea of the game of chicken is what Josh was saying before about the impact of the Neymar deal last summer and the potential for something similar to happen this summer. So from their point of view, they're kind of comfortable keeping Fekir on side, trying to say to him, look, if it doesn't work out, then we're still happy to have you here. We still think you're a great player. We'll still be able to go on with you. And they're also thinking that if in that scenario, and he does play next season, then he's got a whole nother season to put himself into a bigger market to maybe attract more headlines about his actual play rather than his knee, and that will therefore help drive the price up.
It's a bit like Suarez with the Arsenal and then finally moving to Barcelona situation in a way, isn't it? It's possibly if he stays for that extra year, Leon will turn around and say, well, here's a new contract, here's a release clause in it, here's where we benefit from it, here's how you benefit from it.
And you might see something like that. One thing that I really like about the statement, though, read the first sentence of that statement again.
I am working, says the manager Bruno, I am working under the assumption that he will stay with us.
And everything he says after that point completely contradicts that statement.
He wants to take the next step, is his very next sentence.
Exactly.
So why the fuck are you working under that assumption? I think, Mo, there's a few other things at play here. Well, there's a few things at play here. One is the fact that Aula, the chairman, has very much made it part of his personal brand that he will develop players. He says he's made reference to them being like his children. And if Fekir wants to go, he wants him to fulfill his dreams. So I think he sees that part of Lyon's proposition, why they can get players like Aouar to sign 5-year contracts, because they're this great breeding ground. He's happy for them to be there. So to a degree, he has to be seen as not obstructive. They have to be seen as not obstructive. The other thing I think they've got to weigh up economically is, yes, there's 2 years left, but they don't know, is Fekir at the peak of his brand? He's had a tremendous season, and in fact, 2 tremendous seasons. They can't be sure if the trajectory is upwards and onwards by another year. Mm-hmm. And let's put it this way, it can either match it or it can go down. And if it goes down with only 1 year left, they could be looking at struggling to get 10 or 15 million for him. So he scores what? He scored around 20 goals for the past 2 seasons, has he, in all competitions? Mm-hmm. Maybe 17, 1, 23 last one. But if he just gets what a player in his position shouldn't be ashamed of getting, an 11 or 12 goal season, which is quite possible next year if he stayed in France. With 1 year left, that price is decimated. And I think there's possibly a realisation at Lyon that this is the peak price that they can hope to get, and that they do need to realise something.
No, I agree. And the flip side to what I said before about him having another year to impress people and put the mark up is that what happens if in that year he has another injury?
Well, of course.
And then all of a sudden they're even further behind square one. So I think I agree with what Dan says, that Lyon's prime plan A, so to speak, is still to sell him to us this summer for a good price. But whether or not that happens now, whether or not that happens later in the window, once they've seen how a few other things shake up, and I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure what it would take from a Liverpool perspective for them to say, okay, because we still don't know what Liverpool want in terms of the difference between now and pre-medical. We don't know whether or not that they've asked them to renegotiate the price. We all assume they have, but no one has any concrete evidence to that fact. We don't know if we've tried to change the length of the contract or the wages or performance related. We don't know those particular variables, and we won't know until Liverpool do come back in again.
Do you know what's just interesting to me? If you look again at the kind of comments coming out from the manager and from Aula in recent weeks, just think back to when does this deal reach its zenith before it tails off? It's about 3 weeks ago now. if you look at the media in the preceding week to 10 days before that, it was full of denials by Aula, going, we are not in talk. In fact, he said, we are categorically not in talks with Liverpool. It'll take a very wealthy club to secure him. We are in no hurry to all this kind of information.
He posted a statement on the Twitter account, didn't he, as well, saying that he was not leaving and they were not negotiating with anybody. Yes. And then 3 or 4 days later, he was having his medical and was pictured in a Liverpool shirt.
I suppose that could be similar to the Coutinho situation, though, in a way, last summer when all the hints that Liverpool were getting was that they could get Fekir. All the hints of Barcelona was that they could be getting Coutinho. The club sort of turn around and go, well, no, that's not true. We're not selling Coutinho. We're not selling Fekir under any grounds. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, Fekir might have gone to Ola and said, well, actually, it's true. My agent talked to Liverpool and I want to leave and I want you to let that happen.
It's possible, but it feels to me like they're lying through their teeth. And they did it with Lacazette. The most sort of immediate case study is the Lacazette deal, which they do for about 50 mil with Arsenal last year, but they take Arsenal to the wire on this one. He is a born piss taker, Aula, and I don't think he's seemed about getting the best price.
Well, a difference with that one as well, I think, is that there was a second club with genuine interest. He was very, very close to joining Atletico Madrid in a couple of transfer windows.
That's very true.
So I think they had a different card there. I think they had a way of pushing the price up. If there's no genuine interest from anyone else, or if there is genuine interest but they've been put off by the fact that Liverpool have shied away following the medical, then it means that Liverpool are in theory in a stronger position than what Arsenal would have been with Lacazette.
Okay, let's move off the Fekir watch. I think it's got more to give. God knows I will
Didn't even talk about his brother.
Yassin Fekir. Well, I'll briefly touch on it so people know what you're referencing, although we spoke about it on a show earlier today. Yeah, the internet thought it was a hilarious joke to post Fekir signs a new contract. Did you all see this yesterday?
No.
It was Yassin Fekir's younger brother signed a new contract at the club.
Remember, every 31st of August for 10 years, Liverpool signed Bent. And it was just a bent Liverpool Lime Street sign.
Yes, hilarious. Awful. Yeah, very funny people. Talking about funny people on the internet, those that think they know things that other people don't know, who are not journalists, and some of them do, and some of them don't. But Twitter in particular was awash with rumours that Liverpool were very close on a keeper yesterday, and some people who tend to speak not with false tongue or reasonable sources at times, were saying there's a keeper going to be signed quite soon, and it isn't one of the big names that everyone's going to want. It's going to be one that might upset them a little bit, which I think led to a speculation frenzy that it was this Silerson character, the Barcelona number 2 deal, was back on, Dan.
So wait, to clarify though, people on the internet said that Liverpool were going to sign a goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's
and
pretty bold of them.
It wasn't one of 2 goalkeepers.
Yeah, it's pretty big,
okay.
pretty big shout.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yes, you may rightly sneer, right? But it actually made James Bad News Pierce, our mate Piercy, hi James, actually go and ask Liverpool the direct question, and Liverpool said and Liverpool via James said they have no interest whatsoever in Silerson. So make of that what you will.
I think it's good if they haven't, because I heard this first probably about a month, 6 weeks ago, that they were interested in buying him. And at the time, I think we were mainly under the impression that Liverpool would probably get rid of all 3 goalkeepers, or maybe we just felt like that. So I was thinking, I suppose it's the second choice for about €10 million. That would be fine. And then a few weeks later, I saw them talking about 50 million for him. I thought, hang on, he hasn't played football for 3 years. Where does that come from? And his major contribution to Wales football, the thing that people will know Jasper Silerson for, is being emasculated basically by Tim Krul in the 2014 World Cup, because he was the fella that kept getting brought off for the penalties. Yeah. So I know that that's not necessarily just a judge of how good of a goalkeeper he is, but spending 50 million on a lad that you bring off before a shootout doesn't feel quite right to me.
I'm into journalists just giving us our news by disproving ITKs, by the way. I feel like that could be a trend in the future where ITKs say Liverpool are going to sign him and journalists go, no we're not. Just constantly, that's how we find out that we're signing him.
There'll be a module on it at universities.
Yeah, this is modern journalism.
This is how you disprove ITKs.
I think, well, the thing is ITKs are given this sort of broad banner as though they are one fella.
Yeah.
But they're actually a broad range of people.
It's only Indy Kyler, lads, nobody else. Except no imitation.
He listens to this show.
He's like the Tyler Durden of ITKs, isn't he? Everyone
I
else
absolutely
is
love him.
He is all conquering. Do you want to talk about defenders? Yeah, let's talk about defenders. We got linked this morning, didn't we, Mo? We talked about this in Turkish football mag, Photomac, which we read avidly.
Yes.
that Liverpool rival Fenerbahce for Mina. I forget his first name because of the
Yerry
Y.
Mina.
Yerry.
That guy. He scored 3 and 3 in the World Cup, including last night
Yes, he
against
did.
England. He's been a Barcelona reserve for a while. You like him. I like him.
I like him in some ways. I think that he's got a lot of good qualities. I worry whether some of those bad qualities or the weaknesses in his game would be more exposed playing in our club, because the agility question. I mean, last night, obviously, he pulled his groin celebrating the goal, and then after that, he was a little bit useless. But I've seen him look very similar to that without a groin injury. There's been
There's a lot of
times
people getting kicked in the bollocks in this World Cup.
to be fair, Mo, you had me at celebrating, pulling his groin, celebrating. That's absolutely amazing in itself.
No, yeah, that's
Oh,
true.
well, I mean, it'll be a laugh riot having him in the team. Trust me. But I mean, I think that if you look at his upside, he's still young. He still has the
23.
ability to learn and develop. And you never know, with it, players who've got good raw materials can transform and iron out their weaknesses in this side. We've seen it before. But I just think that he's one of those, when he looks bad, he looks horrid kind of defenders. He's not kind of like a steady Eddie, kind of 7 out of 10 every week. And if
We're
we're
very
looking,
familiar with that.
if we,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Proud.
We've got quite a few of those already.
Welcome.
I think if we're looking for someone who's going to be pushing for a spot regularly sitting next to Virgil, and sitting would be the opposite word because Virgil's so good, I think we'd probably need someone who's a little bit more consistent than him, considering the price that it'll be. It seems to me a little bit like a convenient transfer story because of the non-EU player situation Barcelona are into. They might be looking to get rid of him so they can bring in someone else. But he's a good defender, don't get me wrong. I just think that, particularly for Liverpool, we would probably be better looking elsewhere.
It's a story that has, or a link rather down, that has surfaced throughout the summer. It has come up a few weeks ago. I don't know if there's anything in it. Do you know much about him apart from what you saw last night?
I've seen him in all of Colombia's games so far, and I think he's been absolutely excellent. I know he scored the goals, but I think him and Davinson Sanchez have both been magnificent. Especially last night, Colombia generally were really, really poor for the vast majority of the game, but I thought the centre-halves and goalkeeper were faultless. They've all played really well across the entire tournament. It feels like it'd fit to me. I'm not sure I'm buying the story because I don't really think that we're going to buy a centre-half, if I'm honest. But I feel like it'd fit because obviously there's the EU thing of Barcelona. He's not getting a game there anyway, and it's hard to see when he will because Gerard Piqué, you would imagine, is going to be there until he retires and will be first choice. And they've spent, 40 or 50 million euros on Samuel Umtiti and given him a new contract recently. So it's hard to see where he gets a game regularly more than in the Copa del Rey, to be honest, for them. And if he was to leave them, he wouldn't want to drop off too far. I don't think he'd be happy to go and join a Villarreal or something.
No,
in
he'd
Spain.
still be looking for Champions League football.
So I think it's the kind of thing that could work because I think you could say to him, all right, well, you're not necessarily first choice for us, but you're going to get more games than what you would get there. You're going to have an opportunity to make yourself first choice.
Yes.
He does look a bit ropey at times, I think, and a bit like he plays completely on instinct. But I think that's sort of fine at his age. I think he's the type of person that you could bring in and can learn. Especially with the fact that, well, we've already got 5 centre-halves. You would imagine that if we were to buy one would move on, so we'd still be left with 5. It's not like he's going to be in a position where he's going to be bombed into the side out of nowhere and he's going to have to stay there if he's playing poorly. I think that's a position now where we could sort of afford to have someone that's learning on the job a little bit because they're not going to have to play every week. They can play home league games against sides lower down the division. They can play League Cup games, FA Cup games, as long as we've got the bodies there. And just generally, I would personally rather that we had somebody else other than Joel Matip at this point. I just think that he's very unreliable in too many ways in terms of his fitness, in terms of his on-pitch performances. When he first came in, I thought he looked great. He looked really confident on the ball. He looked like his concentration was really good, but then his performances have dropped off so much since that I sort of wince when I see him on a team sheet at this point because you just don't know what you're going to get from him. I would rather that we just had someone who either was a sort of steady Eddie player, like more akin to Clavan, to be honest, that you know what you're going to get out of him. He's not going to be great, but he'll do you a solid job and he will concentrate. Or someone that maybe has sort of similar foibles in that he might have a great game one week and then be a bit ropey the next, but at least is younger and you're convinced can go on to improve, because you look at Matip and I don't think he's going to get any better than what he is.
No.
So if they're going to look at someone like Mina, there's been links to Lascelles. I would much rather we
Tarkowski.
had... Yeah, I would much rather... Well, not necessarily Tarkowski, because he plays in a very different way, I think, but the other two and players like that, you can at least mould. There are raw materials there to work with, and you don't have to put instant pressure on them.
They make sense, don't they, in terms of the style? Like I sort of look at that as a potential partnership in terms of Van Dijk and Mina, and almost think of when Lovren and Sakho were playing so well together. Lovren was probably more of the sort of ball handler in there, like Van Dijk is now, and Sakho was the sort of big physical, possibly in terms of the sort of negatives of Mina's game as well, in terms of sometimes acting on instinct, sometimes it goes a bit wrong, sometimes he looks a bit ropey, particularly when he's on the ball, but he's got all the good attributes as well.
I'd say Sakho, of the Liverpool defenders we've had in the recent past and present, I'd say Sakho is the one that reminds me the closest connection to Mina. I would say the only main difference is that Mina's short passing is better, whereas Sakho, when he was trying to really concentrate on his longer passing, was actually really good.
Yeah.
It's just that he looked so cumbersome. The end product would have to be better than what it looked. With Mina, if he's in a situation where he doesn't have to pass long, so teams aren't kind of pressing up on everyone else and making him make the little decisions, he's great on the ball.
We've also been linked to another defender at this World Cup, Vida. It's first name.
I was looking forward to seeing you turn this on.
Vida. Turkish journalist Tugay Demir has made a major claim after suggesting Liverpool have joined Everton in the race for the Besiktas defender who has starred at the World Cup. He's a quarter-finalist now. Funnily enough, he's the guy with the ponytail, isn't he?
He is. Yeah. He looks like one of Hans Gruber's henchmen.
He does very
which I am banging to it for that reason.
I'm banging. I saw him in this pre-World Cup warm-up game for Croatia. He actually stood out. I'd never heard of him, never seen him. You couldn't miss him because of his daft ponytail. But he actually was really, really quite competent. I'm trying to remember where he played in the defence specifically. Was he?
He's the left centre half.
Yeah,
and Lovren is the right centre half.
Yeah. So, I have no idea. It's a sort of obscure enough one that you think, yeah, maybe something in it.
It feels a lot like almost the Fekir link to Man United, where there's people in Turkey doing it because they're saying like we really want Everton to buy this player. But I'm into it for the fact that we could deny Everton someone who could potentially be a good player.
The fact that the reports are that our bid has come after them is $500,000 more than theirs.
Yeah.
That definitely does sound like someone's having a joke there. I can't say he's someone who I've seen a lot of because he's been playing in Ukraine and Turkey, but I do know that Besiktas only got him in January on a free. So
did they?
Aren't Everton meant to have some sort of relationship with Besiktas? I don't know if it's just because of the Cenk Tosun situation, but I think they're meant to have some sort of relationship. So I imagine that like it's probably come about due to that, and then Liverpool's interest is probably more of a fabrication than anything else.
Just to try and wind up
He's been really good at the World Cup though. Really good. Him and Lovren have probably been the second strongest centre half pair after Godin and Jimenez for Uruguay. I think it makes sense to have, because I think Lovren's performances look so much better when he's got someone next to him that he trusts.
Yeah, that's true.
Since Van Dijk's come in and he knows exactly who he's playing with every week, he's completely gone on to a different level. I mean, towards the end of the season, if you were judging him just off those performances, he was legitimately one of the best centre-halves in world football. Probably he put in a man-of-the-match performance for Liverpool in the European Cup final. He's looked great in this tournament. It's a player that he knows. It's a player that he knows that he's played next to rather for an awful long time. So if they were looking for someone to make him feel comfortable next to, I guess that makes sense. I'm not sure that I buy the link from just Turkey, but I think if they were looking for a centre-half and one that wouldn't be too expensive, I think it makes sense.
I buy all of that, definitely. But that does also make me wonder, if Lovren wasn't a Liverpool player and we were just looking for a centre-half, would we even look twice at him? I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, okay.
I think your point's valid, though, Dan. I mean, I think we're very focused on who's the best lad we could have in our squad to play next to Van Dijk. Van Dijk can pick up an injury. He could easily pull a hamstring, be out for 6-8 weeks, and we could have to have a new pairing.
You might just not want to play him in some League Cup games.
Of course, absolutely. But I don't think I want to see Matip and Lovren as a long-term pairing again for a period of time. So we do. I take your point that I think that it's probably the least of the priorities, out of the priorities, the centre-half, but I think it would be a good one.
To be fair, I imagine that's where Joe Gomez would come in long-term, wouldn't it? Particularly in terms of the League Cup and things. I think where Klopp sees him ultimately is at centre-half, and I think particularly if you're taking Van Dijk out the side and putting someone else alongside, I think Gomez would probably be the one that Klopp wants because he knows he's a good footballer for a start, the fact that he's played him at right back for so many games at the start of this season, but also just in terms of giving him that chance to learn, because he's not going to get that playing at right back for Liverpool. He's going to have to play at centre half in some games, and we didn't get to see an awful lot of it last season. So if there was a Van Dijk injury or them chances more in the League Cup than we got last season, then.
And obviously you've got the fact that Klein is now fully fit, so that extra option at right back, which means that you can, in theory, if you're looking to put Joe Gomez at centre back, you're not having to worry about what that means.
Yeah, someone who's a bit more assured defensively at right back. Yeah,
I think he is now just a centre half, and on a squad list somewhere at Melwood, he's just listed as a centre half, not a right full back. Yeah. But when he's playing those games, I think ideally I would like him to play next to Van Dijk as opposed to coming in for Van Dijk, because he's essentially just learning from the best in loads of different ways.
Yeah, I agree.
And it means that Lovren's not sort of worrying about babysitting him and trying to cover for him. Lovren's just doing Lovren's job, and that's when he's at his best. So I would ideally like to see him play with Van Dijk.
Okay, we're going to finish this edition by talking about a player who's already with us, Sadio Mane. There's reports in the Mirror reported that he's been offered a bumper new contract. They're always offered bumper new contracts, aren't they? Mo, we'll start with you on this one. We've tied down Firmino and Salah. Well, offered them bumper new contracts, and they've signed them. What sort of money do you think we're offering our star players now? Because I'd like to know, because I think it's indicative of where Liverpool are in world football more than anything. What we pay your top. I think you're often defined by what you pay your top players.
Yeah. My gut instinct is around in the neighbourhood of £200,000 a week. I don't know whether or not it's a flat fee or whether it's with really gettable incentives. But I think that's the neighbourhood we're going to be looking at. And I think from that perspective, we're looking to... It's where we place ourselves amongst the rest of the Premier League, because obviously the Manchester clubs are on a different stratosphere to where we've been so far. Chelsea were up there, are now rumoured to be maybe dropping down. We know that Arsenal and Spurs have always been quite tight when it comes to wages. And I think we were looking to place ourselves maybe just slightly above Chelsea, because it's not necessarily about saying, we're going to have the most money, we're going to throw money around like stupidly, the way some people would say Man United have done in recent times. But we don't want to be in a situation where wages is the only reason we lose out to another Premier League rival on a player. If they're going to go to Manchester City and it's because they've won the title last season, okay, fair enough. We just need to go to the stage where we're winning the title. I think if we can be in and around the top echelons in terms of wages offered, then I think that's a good place to be. And Mane definitely deserves it, in my opinion.
I think 200 grand's probably the right sort of shout, because obviously Emre Can, the sort of wranglings that went on with his contract for so long, and he ends up signing for Juventus for, I think it's €220,000 in the end was the sort of rumoured fee, and you can almost imagine the conversation where he goes to Liverpool and says, I want to be paid what your top players are paid, and Liverpool go, well no, because you're not one of our top players.
That, to be honest, I think that story was misrepresented in certain quarters.
Oh, right.
What he actually was offered was a figure around 12 or 13 million as a signing on fee,
right,
and 80,000 euros a week, which is really quite modest by Juventus. If you amortise it, what they said is, but I think the way they were paying it was worth 220 grand a week for the first 2 years, and then 70 grand a week.
I see.
It was a bit disingenuous. I mean, but I take your point. I mean,
yeah.
What I'm perturbed by the levels. I know you say we're out of United and City are out of our league. I don't think they have to be as far out of the league as maybe they are. The 350s we are getting bandied around that they would pay for Sanchez. I know he was out of contract, but I don't know. It feels to me that 200 may be small. Maybe for Firmino, maybe for Mane, but for Salah, I wonder what that number is, because I suppose maybe it's very incentively, but if he continues being the player he's been, he's worth more than 200 grand a week by a long way.
Yes, he is. I think you've got to weigh it up as a management team as well and look at, because a lot of the issues that people say with giving one player lots of money is the knock-on effect to what it has with everyone else, and going in and saying, well, where's our deal? With Salah, I'm not sure that would be the case at Liverpool. I think that the rest of the squad are able to recognise, well, the majority of them, to say, well, yeah, okay, he's definitely in our top.
The guy who gets us the goals every single week.
And I mean, I think the new contract for him a year after was kind of the show of faith. I don't think it's going to be, well, he's going to be expecting a new contract every year. He plays fantastic, and so does everyone in the squad. I agree with you. I think that 350, and if someone's going for 350, then that's probably more than we need to be going to at this stage, because you start to get into a situation where we would start maybe not having been able to buy players because of wages. But again, when you've got a guy that good and you want him to be happy and he says that this would make him happy, then you've got to really consider it.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with us buying less new players. People might be surprised to hear. if the three world-class players we have up front stay with us indefinitely, because I think every year we line up with those three at the front of our team, we've got a chance of doing something.
Yeah, I think that there's a sort of difference in the way that they do the wages between players that they've already got and players that they'd be bringing in. I think they'd be happier to pay players that they've already got more money than what they would be, say, for a fourth attacking player to come in and do that.
Sure.
Because I think it's essentially a reward scheme at this point. I think it's, okay, well, you're going to get this wage at the start, which is really good money. It's not out of this world money. And you're going to be on that. And then if you have a brilliant season, we'll up it by this. And then maybe in 2 years' time after that, if you're still doing really well, we'll up it by this. And I think that, it's probably a bit cliche to say this, but I think we've got a collection of players now as well. I don't believe that any of them are overly motivated by money. If you compare it to Sanchez moving to either City or United at the time, and it ended up being United, probably because it just was more money. Özil stays at Arsenal because he's getting paid 350 grand a week. I think that the lads we've got have kind of different mindsets and attitudes than that. I'm not saying that they're not bothered at all, but I don't think to be sticking around at the club just because someone walks in and says, "Oh, if you stay, we'll give you an extra 100 grand."
Yeah. It'd be more so their agents trying to get them the good deal than themselves.
Yeah, I think that
money.
there's genuinely an awful lot to be said for the fact that Liverpool is the most fun place to play footy. Yeah. In England, certainly, and probably Europe as well. And whether that's players that are still here who just want to stay here, or whether that's trying to sell yourself to new players, I think that holds an awful lot of credence, and more credence than saying, well, here's an extra 30 grand.
No, I agree with that. I think in terms of what we're talking about disruption, that kind of idea of a meritocracy where you've got to earn it and pay your dues, and everyone in the dressing room can see exactly what you've done to earn it, I think that will kind of eliminate any of those kind of issues.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. I hope people watching this on YouTube for the first time will have enjoyed it. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Dan. And thanks to Josh for producing and being on it. See you again soon.